I am really excited. I just got a delivery of 2 new metal garden beds, and if you've been watching for a while, you'll know that our garden is primarily made up of wooden garden beds that we've assembled, but we're always adding to our beds, and we now have a lot more metal garden beds in our garden, and I absolutely love them. I share a lot about the pros and cons of each, and we'll definitely dive in a lot more. So if you want to understand the best way to create your garden, definitely subscribe. But today we're going to be talking about how you can actually fill these guys in the best way. Now, there are a lot of different methods for filling raised garden beds, and we're going to go over a really efficient, cheap alternative, which is also going to make a really great structure to your garden bed. First off, we're going to go ahead and assemble these guys. I love metal garden beds because they're really easy and quick to assemble. The directions on our Anleolife beds do say they take around 30 minutes or less, and we were able to clock in the full assembly in under 15 minutes per bed. So really good time, and I'm not like an assembling genie. Once you've assembled your boxes, then you want to lay them out in the perfect location, and you want to think about what type of plants you're going to be planting in them. Sometimes this can be really hard, but for the most part, you're probably going to want to choose a full sun area if you're looking to garden in them. And we have ours right here. So I have one, I did right over here, one over here. So they're the entrance to our garden. Now our garden we do use a nice deer fencing on here. We have so many deers. So these boxes out here are going to be more for items that aren't super big for the deer, so the things that they aren't going to eat as much. We're probably going to use these as some decorational boxes to help beautify the landscaping outside of our garden as well, because that's really important. So once you've gone ahead and picked the location, they're really easy to just kind of roll into place. And then what you're going to do is actually want to level them out. It's really important that whatever boxes you're working with, you're leveling them. One, it's going to look a lot better if they are leveled. And two, when you're starting to make your lasagna ingredients inside, which we'll go over exactly how to fill them, you want to make sure that everything's level so that the soil does not shift too much and create an unlevel surface within as well, because that's going to just mess up a lot of the environment in your beds in the long term. So it's a kind of annoying to level beds at the beginning, but it will be well worth your time in the long run. Once your beds are nice and level, then you can start to think about how you actually want to fill them. And the first step that we're going to be doing in our bed is actually creating a protective layer from any weeds. And for this, we're going to be using a brown matter, something that you have at home, and that is cardboard boxes. And all I did was actually peel off all of the tape on these boxes. You really don't want to have tape in your boxes because that's not going to decompose as well. And you also want to watch out for any boxes that might have strong coloring on them. So try to stick to your browns more than any of those colorful boxes that you might have. So what I've done, I have this pile right here of all of my cardboard. I've taken off all of the tape the best I could, and then I ripped it into smaller segments. Because my beds are circular, I just wanted to make it easier to work with, and it doesn't have to be pretty. This is going to be on the ground. So we're going to go ahead and start to fill our garden bed, taking the cardboard, lining it to the best of the edge as I can, and filling her in. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to get every single inch, and you can overlap as well, depending on how much cardboard you have. Once you've gone ahead and filled up with your cardboard, this is, as I mentioned, going to be more of your weed barrier. I'm going to go ahead and start using logs in my bed as well as sticks. This is where you're using a lot more of the organic matter around your property, and this is going to help fill out your bed the most. So depending on how high your bed is, you might want to use just sticks instead of logs or thinner logs. And if you think about it, the smaller the stick or log that you're using, the faster that it's going to decompose. Using something like this means that if you have a strong root vegetable, think potatoes, carrots, anything like that. If you have logs in your bed, it's gonna have to grow around it. So I would not use logs in a bed that is shallower and you're gonna be using a root vegetable. If you're using something that has a much shallower bed, much shallower root system, then I suggest using more logs. And if you're using a higher bed, then you might wanna use logs as well. So we're gonna go ahead and fill this with some logs and sticks and twigs. One thing to be mindful of when you are doing this process is if there's any vines, to actually pull them off and make sure that you're using wood that definitely is dead and there isn't anything that's going to grow off of it or propagate off of it. We have dealt with some wood that had some propagation that started to propagate in a garden bed, and then we had to remove it fully and it just disturbed the whole bed. So just make sure that you're checking your wood pretty good before you're putting it in. Once you've gone ahead and added your bottom layer of logs, especially if you have a nice deep bed, then you can go in and add some smaller twigs and branches. And then what we'll do, especially since it's fall time, we're gonna go ahead and add a nice fluffy layer of leaves and any compost that you have. This is a great layer down here because it can start the composting process of your logs, of your twigs, your branches, and your leaves. So let's go ahead and add that next layer to our little lasagna garden bed. Now, it's gonna really feel like there's a lot of stuff in your garden bed at this point in time, but leaves are very volume based. So once we do put on the next layer, it's gonna compact down. So you can add a lot more leaves than you really think. Once you have your nice layer of leaves, then we can go ahead and start to either put compost on. If you have any good compost, this is a great time to layer it on, or you can start to add your soil. I'm gonna go ahead and add some of our soil. We got this from a local compost center. So this is actually a really great quality composted soil that we're gonna add onto this. Highly nutritious, and I definitely suggest this is where you get pretty particular about the soil that you're putting on top so that you're having a really nice base for your plants, because this is what they're gonna be primarily growing in. I suggest during this time that you go a little bit overboard on soil if it is the fall time period. This is because we are just entering into winter and then spring, and during the winter it's going to compact down a lot onto those nice fluffy leaves. So by putting some extra soil in now, I'm just going to make sure that I have enough come this spring. And once you've put in all of your soil, then because it is the fall that we're dealing with, I'm gonna actually put our garden to sleep. So I'm gonna put some straw or some mulch on top. We're gonna be putting mulch on top, and this is gonna help lock in the nutrients of our bed so that the sun and the snow and all of that isn't gonna rip the nutrients out. Otherwise, if it is the springtime, you can just go ahead and start planting whatever plants you want, from seed, from starter, from whatever you want, and you can start to use your raised garden bed. We absolutely love raised garden beds because they're easy on the knees, they're easy to plant in, and you really are able to control the soil that goes in it. I hope today's video was helpful, and we'll see you guys again next time. Bye.